Season 1, Episode 2 of Grow and Tell, presented by Respect My Region as part of the North American Weed Tour. I'm here with Anthony Bailey of GrowGeneration Bellingham. Say hi, Anthony. Hi. So GrowGen is the #1 hydroponics store in North America. Is that correct, Anthony?
No, it's incorrect. We're the #1 hydroponic retailer in the world.
Really? Wow.
World.
And you were formerly Hogue Tech Hydroponics. You were the 59th of 63 store locations in North America. Correct?
I don't know if we're the 59th.
You're the 59th. 59th, yeah. Yes. Takeover.
I was formerly employed by Hogue Tech Hydroponics, and we were acquired by GrowGeneration as the best of breeds. Hydroponic stores tend to be acquired by good companies.
Yeah, very true. Well, are you excited to be here today on Grow and Tell, Anthony?
Very excited.
Yeah? Good.
Yeah.
I figured because this podcast focuses on cultivation, and since you sell nutrients and growing media, lighting, ventilation, all those things, you'd be prime. You probably have a unique view on the Washington cannabis market. Do you agree?
I'd say I do, and I'm also extremely passionate about cultivating all plants. You might use the word botany, but I kind of limit to just plants and stuff. Horticulture.
Do you grow cannabis yourself as well?
I dabble. I found it extremely beneficial to start growing a little bit and using the same products my customers grew, or using products that I think my customers should use. I could talk about them inside and out. It definitely helped selling them, honestly, which is another aspect of what we want to do. We want to be, give people honest advice based on experience and not just based on things we find cheap to sell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you've always helped me a ton when I've come into the store to find what nutrients I need. Yeah, of course. There's always little samples that I appreciate as well. That's very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who would you say typically are clients that you're dealing with?
Well, the percentages kind of change. I'd say it's changed over the years. I started working in this part of the industry once legal cannabis I-502 was in the Washington market. So we had about 60% of our clients were commercial cultivators, and that's slowly increased to about maybe 85% is commercial accounts right now.
Do you sell different things to people in those different markets? Do you have products that you sell just to medical growers and products that you just sell to commercial growers?
No, anybody's free to buy whatever we sell. But you could see trends with commercial clients versus medical clients. One in sizes, that's obvious, gallons for a medical grower, maybe they have less lights. You have a commercial client with 300 lights, they're going to buy bigger, more economical sizes. But everybody kind of has their own brand preferences too.
Yeah. So what would you say is the #1 product that you enjoy? Either you enjoy selling most or that you sell most often from GrowGen?
I don't know. The soluble lines have been extremely successful lately, and more economical for commercial growers. I love selling unamended soils, like just straight cocoa. I love selling GrowGen, and I love selling automation. When you see people starting getting into dosatrons, Trollmaster, Agrotech, and they start growing smarter, automating their environments, and then they could focus on other aspects of the business. It's huge. It's going to determine who's most profitable and successful in the future will be the automators. There's lots of reasons why. Spend more money to control your environment. We know what the plants ideally want. We know by now how much air movement they like and what their VPD in certain stages of growth, what optimizes that, how often you could feed instead of who wants to hand water 20 times a day. We want to automate that. You got that time? I don't have that time, but simple automation goes a long way. And it's always kind of exciting to help somebody through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing I've noticed when I'm consulting is that there's a lot of ways to do the same thing, but automation tends to free you up to be a little bit more nitpicky about things that you will notice when you're bottling or when your customers will notice, right?
Yeah.
Because you can spend a lot of time watering, but your customers aren't going to notice the time you spend watering. If you're watering the same way with automation, right? It's not going to be substantially different in the bottle. Whereas if you free yourself up to do these other things like defoliation or better trimming or things like that, then those are the things your customers tend to notice.
Training employees and friends and workers, helpers, whatever they are, to take over other aspects of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what is a master grower? How do you define a master grower?
It's a tough question because there's a lot of people don't like the term right now. It's not a very popular term. And I think the term arose once legal cannabis came on the scene, and the legacy growers, the OG growers, the experienced growers developed this title for themselves. You put master grower, it sounds amazing. It's like you're a Jedi Knight.
Right.
I'm a master. There's no certification to become a master grower. It's a title bestowed upon oneself.
It's a title appropriated from horticulture. It's a title that we use.
There's the master grower program in Wazoo. Yeah. But even that, what makes them a master grower?
When they work in an extension office, they get that title, like a certification.
They get that title, but how many of these master growers that got that title are in cannabis?
No, that's really the question. I mean,
Probably
I don't know
zero.
any. Yeah, I don't know if any. I would love to meet them. But
yeah, they're probably really interesting and love dahlias. But as do I. But really, I think the term was kind of, put in this market for a quick job title instead of like director of cultivation, head grower, which is a common title. Mm-hmm. Master grower just makes you, it's an elated term.
It seems to have ego attached.
A little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, so you wouldn't call yourself a master grower?
No.
No.
But I don't, sure, why not? Sounds great. Sure. Yes, I'm a master grower too.
Yeah.
Without the extension.
But okay. Got it.
I'm a passionate grower.
Yeah. And you have a pretty good understanding of cannabis cultivation overall. You're making all these suggestions. And would you say that you're watching a lot of changes within the industry in terms of, our knowledge expansion and the products that we're using?
It's been amazing. It's been awesome. In the last 5 years, we've come so far with products to recommend that are more ingrained with classic horticulture. Mm-hmm. Take the BioSafe line, or just big ag soluble nutrients. And
well, you said dosatron earlier. Dosatron, right? That was something
that's been in the nursery business for years.
Yeah. My brand new greenhouses were outfitted at Colorado State University with the top of the line dosatron systems and top of the line Philips lighting, right? Lighting has expanded a lot lately.
Yep.
Especially for cannabis.
It has. And LEDs have come a long way in just efficiencies, finding out which spectrum. A lot of companies are playing with spectrums right now. It's not just full spectrum. Some of them lean really far red, and they're doing testing.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that kind of thing, like lights, for example, does GrowGeneration pressure you to put a certain light in people's operations, or are you pretty at your own discretion to recommend lights to certain people?
When customers want to do their build out, they've already been somewhat influenced before they see us for quotes and whatnot. They have an idea what they want to use. And it could be from what their friend has used successfully, what they've used in the past themselves, or what is really heavily branded on, let's say, social media sites like Instagram. Mm-hmm. So they will come out asking for certain name brands, but no pressure. Our pressure is to make sure the customer gets what they need and what they want.
Mm-hmm. What does it seem like most people want out of their cultivation facilities right now?
A cheap bottom line.
Cheap. Interesting. So
Well,
not
I don't
high
like
yield. Not high
economical.
yield.
Of course, they want high yields, and you could
Okay.
always sell a light by tagging on some like this gets 5 pounds of light. But
Yeah.
one thing to ask those people that make those claims is what part of the plant are you weighing to claim your yield? Is that joint trim stuff that you may have swept up,
Right.
or you know?
Yeah, that was definitely one of the things that I noticed when I was trialing different products is if you weren't measuring bottleable material, so finished
Exactly,
material after
sellable product.
trimming, yeah, sellable product, then
Yeah,
none of your metrics really mattered because maybe my wet harvest yield was very high, but if that doesn't translate to more bottleable material, then it doesn't actually create a more or a larger profit margin, right?
yes.
Yeah. So that's
But I
interesting.
think we got some in the next couple of years. We're going to have even greater efficient lights. It's we're going to keep climbing and setting the bar higher and higher.
Mm-hmm.
I think the goal is to for indoor cultivators is to recreate a perfect outside climate, great sunlight, and as soon as the lights hit that sunlight efficiency, we're in business. Like ceramic metal halides were huge when they came out because they were a lot more equivalent to the light of the sun, the
Yeah,
brightness.
they were supposed to be
That was
closer to the natural light spectrum that the sun produced. Yeah.
and that was huge, and you had some really good plant growth with those lights. I still think it's a good technology, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just another bridge to get to where we are now.
Because they can theoretically regenerate that or mimic that with LEDs, no problem, right?
Yeah, with enough diodes, you could probably do anything.
Theoretically.
Yeah, yeah. But then is it what spectrum is it too? And um, the plants want a little. What part of the UV spectrum do the plants want too to kind of
Mm-hmm.
bring out some
Mm-hmm.
THC resin production?
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the new lights that are using remote monitoring to adjust the spectrum over specific
Amazing.
cultivars?
Well, the spectrum adjustment
Yeah.
with lights. Is
Yeah.
there a certain brand in mind that you're talking about?
I'm not at liberty to say, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, having cameras on your plants and they could read thermal temperatures is huge, and you could dim the lights based on that. We're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with DLI, and so you could dim your lights based on how much light the plant uses in a day, and then dim down. I think that's huge.
Yeah,
Changing the
ramping.
temperature based on camera. Um, I don't know why that'd be really necessary. Do you have any insight? What's going on with that?
Well, at least, I mean, we are technically in the genetics portion of this podcast series. So, in my experience, and I can only speak to my experience, certain cultivars actually desire certain spectrum over other cultivars. And whether that be because we bred them in an LED spectrum and selected for them in an LED spectrum and then put them into HBS, for example, and therefore they don't do as well, or whether that's something we don't understand. What I've noticed is that there are certain cultivars that like certain lighting spectrums.
It's interesting. I also think like I'm a no nonsense gardener. I think
Mm-hmm.
plants are plants, and they're going to
Mm-hmm.
grow with certain things that they need from the outside. But we get into kelvins, and there's higher kelvins for vegetative growth, lower
Mm-hmm.
kelvins for flowering growth is kind of common.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get more specific, I'd say that could only help the industry. Uh, what are we looking for? Are we looking for like the pinnacle of all flower? One day, maybe we'll hit that.
I mean, every
The
consumer has a
perfect bud.
different intention,
Yeah,
right? Half of my consumers are doing it for medical purposes, and half of my consumers are using it for recreational purposes. So I think once the cultivators actually hone in on what their target audience is, at least in Washington State with branding, where you get to choose, your clientele essentially based on how you market yourself, then you have to grow in the direction consistent with your market, right?
yeah, and it's really important to know the consumer too. In Bellingham, we recently had a Bud Fest where it was kind
I
of,
was there.
you were there. I wasn't there. How was that?
It was wonderful. Amanda did a
Was
great
it
job.
directed towards the consumer?
It was absolutely directed towards consumers. Yeah.
And I think that's really important for the rec companies to kind of ground themselves,
Mm-hmm.
get a little down to earth, and see who's using the products.
Yeah, I think it
Because
was a wonderful opportunity to meet with the people who are actually smoking their weed,
yeah,
which
and
isn't an opportunity unless they're doing vendor days. And oftentimes they send a rep to do their vendor days. So it was
sure, and
really,
then you're only like dependent on walk-ins where some of these events are culture based.
yeah. Yeah, certainly at Trippy Hippie, we really pushed our customers to come out and meet some of our vendors. Lifted and SubX and people like that were there. So it was really good to have them talk directly, especially Scored is very popular with our customers, and Scored was there. And most of our customers who got to talk to Scored came back and said it was a wonderful experience for them. So
Awesome, awesome.
that was good. It
Yeah.
was very good. Yeah. Yeah. So with some of the insider knowledge that you have, do you know what really expensive flower, what products they're all using, things like that? Can you give us tips and tricks?
Well, what the due to certain ethics, I don't ever share what a customer is using without their permission. You
That's
know,
probably safe.
we don't want to like because you mentioned a couple companies, and
Mhm.
I could sell things to their super fans or to the people, up the other companies that are not trying to mimic them, but get to
Competing
their
with
sales
them.
level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm
Hmm.
not going to say, oh, these guys use this product and then to make sales.
Right.
I think that'd be unethical.
So
But
GrowGeneration, at least Anthony Bailey of
at least it's-
GrowGeneration has an ethical code, a
I
moral,
haven't. Yes,
moral action,
business ethics.
business action
Yeah,
ethics.
but
Excellent. I think
it'd be
that's good to
uncouth
hear.
to use other people's businesses to sell products. It's just not right.
Right.
But my advice to everybody is grow your passion though, because we have living earth people. I'm
Right.
not going to recommend a living earth soil for indoor cultivation. I'm not going
Can
to
I pause for a
come out of
second
it.
on that?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you believe we can even do living earth inside?
Do I believe that you can do it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because
you could do
some of
it.
these cultivators are doing living earth.
Yeah.
We'll put it inside
Well, it could be an
on
uphill battle
concrete.
sometimes. You're living with more out of control organics and living organisms, and indoors it's like having a moldy bathroom or something. Things could get out of control.
Yeah.
But they have their own tactics to deal with that.
Okay.
And it has a lot to do. The reason why they choose to do that is their business ethics, and that's what's great about America's economy is like we could choose what we want to try to accomplish. If that's what you want to do, and that's you want to have all organics indoors, awesome. I love those guys.
But
they're just as
more
passionate
often,
as a soluble nutrient user who's
yeah,
mixing his own salts through a dosatron,
right.
which
And
is
using
probably
rock
where I
salt.
would guide people if they asked me.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think at one point a no nonsense thing clicked in. I'd go, let's just cut out any room for air, and let's run with minerals and keep things sterile and clean, and we'll have less problems. Because I've dabbled in other types of grow styles, and the organics kind of get out of control sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you don't understand what's going on in your soil and the rhizosphere and things like that, then the bad players can definitely overshadow the good players. If you're
Yeah, I
not,
love that outdoors and greenhouses. Those are to me the right areas for that. But it's been successful for some other people around here too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are people growing in like 50-gallon pots inside doing.
Yeah. Well, another thing, now you bring that up, it reminds me of the medical environment where we all came from with plant counts. So we trained ourselves to grow low plant numbers in big plants.
Yes.
And that's part of the evolution of where we are. We're using smaller plants in a lot of them. And that kind of just hits your timing because you don't have to veg as long.
Right.
And it's,
Forecasting seems to be one of the issues that many cultivators have, because when you do scale down and use smaller and smaller plants, you need more and more of them, right? Which means you need to be way more on your calendar.
you do.
So, yeah. What are some of the other problems that you see most commonly occurring right now in the market or with our cultivators? What grower
Well,
problems?
you just bring up the lack of sales.
Okay.
The economy is not as strong as it has been in the last few years. There's that COVID tail we're talking about, where we're catching up with, massive spending and people going back to work, and maybe there's less sales out there because people have less time to medicate or recreate.
What I've been observing, because I'm also manager of a dispensary, is that my sales haven't decreased, but each of my customers are buying cheaper and cheaper product.
That's another thing. Personally, I'll definitely spend the most for the best, or that's kind of a misleading thing, though. You can't just go into a dispensary, spend the highest ticket, and get the best.
Give me your most expensive eighth. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But we always want to treat ourselves. So if you're not, using a lot, you could maybe spend more. But if you're every day, you're gonna make your money count.
Yeah, and I definitely, at least for me, I want everybody to have access to what they need, for sure. But at the same time, I don't think that anybody is benefiting off of a $15 ounce. I don't think that the grower is making money. I don't think that the consumer is getting what they need out of it. I don't think that any of my dispensary workers are benefiting from that sale. So it goes back to business ethics. I just won't sell a $15, quarter.
Yeah. Are you seeing a race in the bottom from at your dispensary? Are people dropping prices to hopefully increase sales?
Absolutely. There is a race to the bottom at this point, especially with Croptober coming. Seems like all of the vendors are dropping their prices and trying to entice more purchases out of both the dispensary and then therefore the consumer.
It's very competitive.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting too. So, if you do go into it, you don't want to plug, you don't want to say anybody that if you go into a dispensary, you don't want to say anybody's weed that you smoke.
I smoke everybody that shops with me. Yeah. I buy their weed.
That's nice.
And that was something I started when I started with Hope Tech.
Yeah.
Every payday, I would go and buy 3 different commercial farms, and just to kind of see, I would see what products they buy. I'd know what products they buy in my brain. When I make a printout or anything, I was like, oh, that guy uses BioBiz, that guy uses Veg Bloom, that guy uses Botanic Care, and I would try to see how they rate, And I learned it's not all about nutrients. It's about curing environment. It's about, other types of cultivation practices. That's what makes good product. It's not just the nutrient. All these nutrients kind of tend to somewhat come from similar sources.
Interesting.
Just different labels and concentrations on it. A few different inputs here and there, but the master grower could grow with anything on our shelf and get a great product. They just have their preferences.
Right. What role do you think that the biologicals play in ideal cultivation?
It's a tough question. Biologicals as in organics?
Biologicals as in living organisms. I'm specifically about microbes and
living organisms. I would say IPM. There's a lot of living organisms that we use for that.
In some systems. I mean, integrated pest management, could just come down to cleaning well, right?
It could, but we're dealing with root issues, and people are putting Bavarias in there, brewing them, and then using beneficial insects. So I'm gonna tag that in there. That's helped a long way.
Yeah. I've also seen a lot of dead ladybugs, but
a lot of dead ladybugs. I wouldn't
recommend conversation.
I wouldn't recommend ladybugs per se in an indoor environment, but they're kind of fun to watch.
They're fun, but they like the lights a little too much.
They get in the reflectors. All bugs get in those reflectors. Fungus gnats are always up there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. A good IPM program is cleaning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, foundation of every good grow is a clean grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe that to a high degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you don't like to give free advice, Anthony. We had a little side
I won't
conversation.
say I don't like to give free advice, but I don't think I think one of the hydroponic clerk misnomers is we sell products. So my
Right.
advice might come off as a sales pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sensitive to that, but I think it's our job to guide people to the best of our abilities. But if you're coming into the hydro shop and you want the hydro clerk to teach you everything on how to grow, that's just not going to happen. We don't have the time
Right.
for it. It's like going into Safeway and asking, or Hagen's, or wherever you like to shop, and you know I'm going with this, right?
Yeah,
Asking,
asking them
you got to cook.
how would you prepare this meal?
Yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
might say I like to boil my corn. Now I like to barbecue it,
Right.
but there's no right or wrong
But
way
corn
to
is
do it.
corn.
Corn's corn, nutrients, nutrients. But I will give, you know, simple advice freely, but setting people on the total program, it's kind of tough. And then you're giving out recipes. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's a
So where
really stressful situation because what if I'm wrong? What if
right.
they misuse my advice? What if
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to tell them to lower the concentration level of that foliar spray or
Mm,
to pH this one this way?
right.
I don't know. It's a tough one.
So
So
when customers come in that want that much hands-on, where do you direct them to? Where do you send them?
well, we help them out the best we can. I
Mhm.
teach them how to read the bottles.
Nice.
We know everything you need to have in your facility to grow. When people come in and they want to start growing,
Mm-hmm.
first question I ask them is, "What is your budget? How much do you want to spend on this new hobby? Because it could get expensive."
Mm-hmm.
And so let's start small and then build up. And then hopefully over the time, as we're cultivating a relationship with the client, we could come in and teach them step by step because it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Uh, Growing cannabis is a marathon in my mind. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many steps and it's such a long process. It's almost like training for a marathon and then running the marathon. It could
Right.
be 6 months of work.
Yeah.
So
Your
just
harvest is your marathon.
yes, and to throw
Mhm.
everything down for one person and teach them everything, it's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so just kind of working with them over the years. Um, the best way I try to help people out is not unnecessarily upselling them. I don't want to
Mhm.
sell them every single bottle in the store that they could buy. Sometimes less is more. And I
Mm.
kind of found that some of the growers that were buying multiple bottles may have been uh, mixing them incorrectly and getting problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely people neglect the chemistry when they're mixing together different
Well,
nutrients,
they don't
especially
know the
from different
chemistry.
lines.
Yeah.
No, they don't know the chemistry. Yeah. I mean, we have so many
Cannabis products were intimidating when I started. You walk
products.
in the store and you see all these bottles, like 12 bottles for a line, and you're like, I can't do this. This is
Mhm.
ridiculous. I'm just gonna go to Trippy Hippie and buy some eights from Erin, from her favorite company. But
Right.
then you start growing and it becomes a super passionate thing, and you kind of teach yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same way with, I'd say, the breeders too. They're self-taught or they learn through forums and just you learn a lot by making mistakes too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Some of the most
Yeah,
important lessons are through
like
making
I'll
mistakes.
never, I'll never try to grow GrowGen without automation. How about
Yeah,
that? You know,
I can't even imagine trying to do that.
now it doesn't go very well. you know,
Oh, good. Well, any last little bits of knowledge or anything you want to share with us before we wrap this up? We're about at
for
half an
free,
hour. So, which now?
for free.
For free.
My Bitcoin ledger isn't full yet. I thought you
Oh,
were going to pay me for the
should we
advice.
be, should we be buying the dip of GrowGen stock right now, Anthony? Are we gonna be
Yes.
yes,
Well,
buy the
I would say
is this
the
insider
entire
trading?
stock market is temperamental right now.
Mm.
Yeah, it's gone up 18% in the last month.
Good.
That's a definite recover. Bitcoin goes up 6 and goes down 6. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Are you
man.
keeping up with the stock market?
My retirement is absolutely in the pisser right now. So
Yeah.
I'm trying not to think about it.
No, cannabis stocks were really hot, and then they crashed. Right when COVID started? I was kind of surprised
2 years ago
when I
like
was
Aurora.
following those big Canadian companies. I don't know if it was a market correction or not, but I mean, cannabis as a industry is going to be huge. What, we got 50 times more percentages to climb, easy.
Yeah,
it's definitely a good place to invest in, as we're just kind of like pulling the cover off.
Yeah, we don't even really know how big it's going to get. We don't know.
No, I mean, like, CBD was a little taste of it. Did you ever buy the CBD mayonnaise?
Did I buy CBD mayonnaise?
Yeah.
No, I did not.
Sounds like a great product, right? Let's make it. Like, they put CBD in everything. CBD gummy bears, right? CBD tapioca pudding.
I don't have a business degree, and I know that I don't know everything, but I think you have to have a buyer in mind before you create a product for them. You solve a problem. You solve a problem, right? Is the best product.
Well, if anybody out there
is there a problem with our mayonnaise? Is there?
Well, I mean, we all love mayonnaise. And if you can put something in there that is beneficial to you passively, it's a good product line. So if anybody out there wants to develop CBD mayonnaise, you can call me.
Call Anthony Bailey, GrowGeneration.
I want in on it. Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
That's free. Amazing. That's free advice. You guys can
That's your free advice. We're creating CBD mayonnaise here on the Grow and Tell podcast, season 1, episode 2, part of the North American Weed Tour, presented by Respect My Region. Those are all the things I have to say. Anthony, any last words?
Erin, you're a classic. Thank you very much for having me on your podcast. It's an honor.
Thank you for being
here. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Catch us next week. We will be, not us. It'll just be me. Maybe Anthony can come back another time. But I
can't wait for future episodes.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
Bye-bye.
Oh, I don't know how to